You wake up, check your phone, rush to work, come home exhausted, scroll for hours, sleep, and repeat. Every single day feels the same, and deep down, you know something's off. But here's the truth. Nobody wants to say out loud, the system isn't broken. It's working perfectly. It was designed to keep you comfortable, distracted, and just satisfied enough that you never question it. You think you're in control, but your time, your attention, even your ambitions have been shaped for you. And the scariest part? Most people will live their entire lives like this and never realize it. But you're different. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once you realize how the game is played, you have a choice: stay stuck or start taking control. Let me tell you something straight, and I need you to really hear me on this. You're not lazy. Stop saying that about yourself. Stop letting other people label you that way. You're not lazy. You're distracted, and not by accident. It's by design. Think about your day for a second. You wake up, and before your feet even hit the ground, you grab your phone. Notifications, messages, videos, news, memes. It starts instantly. You didn't even get a chance to think your own thoughts before the world started thinking for you. And then you carry that energy into the rest of your day. Constant interruptions, constant noise, constant pulling of your attention in 1,000 different directions. And here's the part that should hit you hard. Every time your attention gets pulled away, you lose a piece of your potential. Every single time. Because focus is where everything happens. Focus is where businesses are built. Focus is where skills are developed. Focus is where discipline is created. But you've been put in a position where focus is almost impossible. Not because you're weak, but because everything around you is fighting for your attention. There are billion-dollar companies whose entire business model is keeping you distracted. Let that sink in. Their success is built on your inability to focus. The longer you scroll, the more they win. The more you watch, the more they profit. And the more time you give away, the less time you have to build something for yourself. And then you sit there at the end of the day, frustrated, wondering why you didn't make progress, wondering why you feel stuck, wondering why you're not where you want to be. And you blame yourself. You say, I'm just not disciplined enough. I'm just not motivated. No, that's not it. You've been trained to be distracted. You've been conditioned to chase quick hits instead of long-term results. You've been taught to value entertainment over execution. And it's subtle. It doesn't feel like a trap because it feels good. It feels easy. It feels normal. But normal right now, normal is losing. And I'm not saying technology is bad. I'm not saying social media is evil. I'm saying if you don't control it, it controls you. And most people, let's be real, most people are not in control. You say you want more. You say you want success, freedom, money, impact. But your actions don't match. Not because you don't care, but because your attention is being stolen all day long. You can't build a future if you can't even sit with your own thoughts for 10 minutes without reaching for your phone. That's the game. That's how it's built. And here's where it shifts. Because now that you know this, you've got a decision to make. You can keep playing the same game, keep living in distraction, keep giving away your time. Or you can start taking it back. And it starts small. It's not some massive overnight transformation. It's awareness. It's catching yourself in the act. It's asking, why am I picking up my phone right now? It's creating moments of silence where you actually think, plan, and execute. Because the people who win, they're not superhuman. They're not more talented than you. They just protect their attention better than you do. They understand that where attention goes, results follow. If you can learn to focus, really focus, even for a few hours a day, you separate yourself from 90% of people. Because most people won't do it. Most people can't do it. They're too deep in the cycle. So don't sit there and tell me you're lazy. You're not. You've just been playing a game where distraction is the default. But the moment you flip that, the moment you start valuing your attention like it actually matters, everything begins to change. Because at the end of the day, if you don't control your attention, you don't control your life. Let's talk about something that sounds good on the surface but is quietly destroying your potential: comfort. Everybody wants it. Stability, predictability, things feeling safe. You want the steady paycheck, the routine you can rely on, the life that doesn't feel too risky. And I get it. That instinct is human. But what nobody tells you is that the system is built to sell you that exact comfort. Because the moment you accept it, you stop pushing. Comfort is the easiest place to live and the hardest place to grow. You wake up, you go to work, you do what's expected, you come home, and nothing feels terrible. That's the trap. It's not painful enough to force change, but it's not exciting enough to build something meaningful. You're just okay. And okay is one of the most dangerous places you can be. Because when you're struggling, at least you're aware. When things are hard, you're forced to adapt. You're forced to think differently, to move, to take action. But when you're comfortable, you start negotiating with yourself. You start saying, this is fine. I'll figure it out later. Maybe next year. Maybe when the timing is better. And that later turns into years. The system loves that version of you. The version that stays in line, doesn't question too much, doesn't take big swings. Because predictable people are easy to manage. People chasing comfort don't disrupt anything. They don't take risks. They don't build. They don't challenge the structure. They just exist within it. And again, it's not your fault. You were taught this. From a young age, you were told to play it safe. Get good grades, get a stable job, don't mess up, don't fail. Nobody sat you down and said, hey, by the way, if you want something extraordinary, you're going to have to get very uncomfortable very often. So now you're an adult, and every time you feel discomfort, you think something is wrong. You think you're off track. But the truth is, discomfort is the signal that you're actually moving in the right direction. You want to start something? It's going to feel uncomfortable. You want to speak up, put yourself out there, take a risk? It's going to feel uncomfortable. You want to grow? It's always uncomfortable. That feeling you're trying to avoid? That's the gateway. But instead, most people run from it. They go back to what's familiar. They go back to what feels easy. They choose short-term comfort over long-term growth again and again and again. And then they wake up one day frustrated, wondering why nothing changed. Nothing changed because you didn't. And look, I'm not saying go blow up your life overnight. I'm not saying quit your job tomorrow with no plan. That's not the point. The point is understanding that if you're always choosing comfort, you're also choosing to stay exactly where you are. Growth requires tension. It requires uncertainty. It requires you to step into situations where you don't feel fully ready. That's the price. And the people who win? They've made peace with that. They don't wait to feel comfortable. They act despite being uncomfortable. They lean into it. They understand that the feeling of discomfort is temporary, but the results of pushing through it can change everything. Meanwhile, the system keeps offering you upgrades in comfort. A slightly better salary, a nicer routine, a little more convenience. Just enough to keep you satisfied, but never enough to make you free. It's a loop, and if you're not aware of it, you'll stay in it forever. So you've got to start asking yourself better questions. Not how do I stay comfortable, but where am I avoiding discomfort that could actually move my life forward? That's where the real answers are, because every time you choose discomfort with intention, you're breaking the pattern. Every time you do something that scares you just a little, you're stepping outside the system that's trying to keep you small. And here's the truth. It never gets easy. You just get stronger. You get more resilient. You build the muscle to handle bigger challenges. And eventually, the things that once scared you become your new normal. But it starts with a decision to stop chasing comfort as the goal and start chasing growth instead. Because if you keep choosing what's comfortable, you're also choosing to stay exactly where you are. Let's go deeper, because this is where it really starts to mess with you. You've been programmed to fear risk, not just a little bit, deeply, systematically, from the time you were a kid. Think about it. Every time you tried something and it didn't work, what happened? You got corrected, judged, sometimes even embarrassed. School didn't reward experimentation. It rewarded getting the right answer. There was no celebration for trying and failing, only pressure to avoid mistakes. So what did you learn? You learned that being wrong is bad. You learned that failure equals pain, and that belief followed you into adulthood. Now you've got ideas, you've got ambitions, There are things you want to try, things you want to build, risks you know could change your life. But the moment you even think about taking action, that voice kicks in. What if it doesn't work? What will people think? What if I lose money, time, reputation? And just like that, you stop. That's not random, that's conditioning. The system benefits when you fear risk, because people who are afraid don't move. They stay in safe jobs, safe routines, safe lives. They don't disrupt anything. They don't challenge anything. They just stay predictable. And again, let's be real, it feels logical. Avoiding risk sounds smart. It sounds responsible. You tell yourself you're being careful, that you're waiting for the right time, that you'll make a move when things are more certain. But here's the truth that most people never fully accept. Certainty is a myth. There is no perfect time. There is no guaranteed path. There is no version of your future where you get everything you want without taking risks. It doesn't exist. Every single person you admire, every success story you look up to, every business, every breakthrough, it all came from someone stepping into uncertainty, someone willing to look stupid, someone willing to fail publicly, someone willing to take a hit and keep going. And that's the part people skip over. They love the outcome, but they ignore the process. They see the success, but they don't respect the risk it took to get there. You've been taught to avoid failure, but failure is the only way forward. That's not motivational talk. That's reality. You don't learn by thinking about things. You learn by doing, by messing up, by adjusting, by trying again. That's the game. But if you're so scared of losing that you never even step onto the field, you've already lost. And here's where it gets even more real. You're already taking a risk by doing nothing. You just don't see it that way. Staying in the same place, playing it safe, avoiding change, that's a risk. The risk is that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're in the exact same spot, with the same frustrations, the same regrets, the same questions. That's a massive risk. But because it's slow, because it's quiet, because it doesn't hit you all at once, you ignore it. You convince yourself you're safe, when in reality, you're just slowly giving up control of your future. So the question isn't, should I take risks? The question is, which risk am I willing to live with? The risk of trying and failing, or the risk of never trying at all? Because one of those comes with growth, learning, and possibility. The other comes with regret. And I'll tell you right now, regret is a lot heavier than failure. Failure is temporary. It stings, it teaches you something, and then you move on. Regret? That sticks with you. That sits in the back of your mind, reminding you of what you didn't do, who you didn't become, the chances you didn't take. That's the real cost. So you've got to start reframing this. Risk isn't the enemy. Risk is the entry fee. It's the price you pay for a shot at something better. And the sooner you stop seeing it as something to avoid and start seeing it as something to embrace, the faster your life starts to shift. You don't need to take reckless risks. You don't need to gamble everything overnight. But you do need to get comfortable being uncomfortable with uncertainty. You need to start taking calculated steps, putting yourself out there, trying things that might not work. Because that's how you build confidence. Not by waiting, not by thinking, not by planning forever, but by doing. And once you start, something interesting happens. The fear doesn't disappear, but it loses its power. You realize you can handle more than you thought. You realize failure isn't the end. It's just feedback. And that's when you start playing a different game. A game where you're no longer controlled by fear, but driven by possibility. Because at the end of the day, the biggest risk you can take is pretending that playing it safe isn't a risk at all. Let's get into the one thing that nobody really wants to face, because once you see it, it changes how you look at everything. Time is the only real currency you've got. Not money, not status, not followers. Time. And the system? It's built to take that from you in the most subtle way possible. Not all at once, not aggressively, just little by little, day after day, until you don't even question it anymore. You wake up, you give your time. You go to work, you give your time. You sit in traffic, you give your time. You come home exhausted, and what do? You give whatever's left to distractions. And at the end of it, you get paid. just enough. Just enough to feel like it was worth it. Just enough to keep you going back tomorrow. That's the trade. Your time for a paycheck. Now look, I'm not here to say jobs are bad or that making money is wrong. That's not the point. The point is awareness. The point is understanding the value of what you're giving away every single day. Because money, you can lose it and make it back. Energy, you can rest and recover. But time, once it's gone, it's gone. No rewind, no reset. And most people treat it like it's unlimited. You say things like, I'll start next month. I've got time. I'll figure it out later. That's the lie. That's the story you tell yourself to stay comfortable. Meanwhile, the clock is moving whether you respect it or not. And here's where it hits hard. If you don't take control of your time, someone else will. Always. That's the system working exactly how it was built. It organizes your day for you. It tells you when to show up, what to do, when to leave. And if you're not intentional, your entire life becomes a schedule that you didn't design. You become busy, but not productive, active, but not progressing, occupied, but not fulfilled. That's the trap. Because being busy feels like you're doing something. It gives you the illusion of progress. But if your time isn't aligned with where you actually want to go, then all you're doing is running in place. And I see it all the time. People grinding all day, exhausted, telling themselves they're working hard. But when you really break it down, how much of that time is actually moving them forward? How much of it is intentional? How much of it is invested versus just spent? There's a difference. Spending time is easy. Anyone can do that. You can spend hours scrolling, watching, reacting, staying in motion. But investing time, that requires discipline. That requires clarity. That requires saying no to things that don't matter so you can say yes to what does. And that's where most people struggle. Because saying no is uncomfortable. It means cutting out habits, limiting distractions, maybe even disappointing people. But if you don't start protecting your time, nobody else will do it for you. You've got to start looking at your day differently. Every hour matters. Every decision matters. Not in a stressful, overthinking way, but in a conscious way. Ask yourself, is this moving me forward or is this just filling time? Because those small choices, they compound. 1 hour a day focused on building something, learning something, improving yourself, that adds up. That's how change happens. Not in one big moment, but in consistent, intentional use of time. And the people who really win, they understand this at a deep level. They don't just manage time, they respect it. They treat it like the asset it actually is. They guard it. They allocate it. They make sure it's working for them, not against them. Meanwhile, most people are just letting it slip. Day by day, week by week, year by year. And then one day, they look up and wonder where it all went. That's the cost of not paying attention. So no, the system doesn't need to trap you with force. It just needs you to undervalue your own time. Because once you do that, you'll give it away freely. But the moment you flip that, the moment you realize how valuable your time actually is, everything starts to change. Your priorities shift, your habits shift, your standards shift. You stop wasting it on things that don't matter. You stop delaying what you know you need to do. You start making decisions that actually align with the life you say you want. Because at the end of the day, you're either in control of your time or your time is controlling you. And now we get to the part that most people avoid the most, even after hearing everything we just talked about. Distraction, comfort, fear, time. None of that changes unless you face this one thing: accountability. This is the exit door. This is where everything shifts. And it's also where most people stop, because it's easier to point fingers than to look in the mirror. It's easy to say the system is rigged. It's easy to blame your boss, your situation, your background, your lack of resources, your environment. And listen, some of that might be real. Some people do start in tougher positions. Some people have more obstacles. That's true. But here's the part you might not like. None of that changes what you do next. Because the system doesn't get weaker when you blame it. It doesn't suddenly open up because you complain about it. If anything, it benefits from that. The more time you spend blaming, the less time you spend building. And that's why accountability is so powerful, because the moment you take full ownership, you stop waiting. You stop hoping someone else fixes it. You stop relying on perfect conditions. You take control of what you can control. And that's everything. Accountability isn't about being hard on yourself. It's not about guilt or shame or beating yourself up for where you are. It's about clarity. It's about saying, this is my life, these are my choices, and from this moment forward, I'm responsible for what happens next. That's it. And it sounds simple, but it's not easy. Because real accountability means you can't hide anymore. You can't say, I didn't have time, when you know you spent hours distracted. You can't say, I'm stuck, when you haven't actually tried something different. You can't say, it's not working, when you haven't been consistent long enough to even know. It forces you to be honest, and honesty is uncomfortable. It means admitting that some of the things holding you back are you, your habits, your decisions, your patterns. Not all of it, but enough of it that you have the power to change your direction. And here's the good part. If it's your fault, it's also your opportunity. Because if you're the reason you're stuck, you can also be the reason you get out. That's where the leverage is. That's where the control is. The system doesn't want you to think that way. It wants you to feel small. It wants you to believe that everything is outside your control, that you're just a piece in a bigger machine. Because the moment you believe you have power, you start acting differently. You start making moves. You stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for the right time. You stop waiting for someone to come save you. You realize nobody's coming. And instead of that being scary, it becomes freeing. Because now it's on you. And when it's on you, you can start building momentum. Small actions done consistently. That's what accountability looks like in real life. It's not some big speech or one-time decision. It's daily. It's choosing to do the work when you don't feel like it. It's staying focused when distractions are everywhere. It's pushing through discomfort, taking risks, protecting your time, all the things we've already talked about. It all connects. Because without accountability, none of those things stick. You'll hear this. You'll feel motivated for a day or two, and then you'll slide back into old patterns. That's what happens when you don't fully own it. But when you do, everything changes. You stop negotiating with yourself. You set a standard and you follow through. You don't need external pressure because you become your own pressure. Not in a toxic way, but in a disciplined, focused way. You start respecting your own word. And that's huge. Because confidence doesn't come from hype. It comes from keeping promises to yourself. Every time you say you're going to do something and you actually do it, you build trust with yourself. And that trust turns into momentum. And momentum, that's how you break out. Not overnight. Not with one big move. But step by step, decision by decision, action by action. You start separating yourself from the version of you that was stuck. And look, you're going to mess up. You're going to fall off. You're going to have days where you don't show up the way you should. That's part of it. Accountability isn't about perfection. It's about response. It's about how quickly you get back on track. No excuses, no delays, just ownership. Because at the end of the day, nobody is coming to change your life for you. Nobody is going to hand you freedom, success, or control. That part is on you. And the moment you truly accept that, not just say it, but live it, that's the moment you stop being controlled by the system and start taking control of your life.